Welcome to a sheep brain dissection lab. Where we will be dissecting the sheep brain and locating major lobes, fissures, and various other components.
In this first picture, we identified parts of the brain from the dorsal view. Here you can see the medial longitudinal fissure, which separates the left and the right hemispheres, brainstem, which connects the brain to the spinal cord, and cerebrum, which is the main portion of the brain.
Here we can see all the lobes of the brain, the frontal lobe in charge of decision-making, the parietal lobe in charge of senses and bodily functions, the temporal lobe in charge of memory and hearing, and the occipital lobe in charge of your eyesight. We can also see the cerebellum, which is like a miniature brain with functions varying from balance to muscle coordination.
Here the gyri and the sulci are labeled. The sulci are what separate the gyri. A sulcus is a groove and a gyrus is a fold.
Now we have flipped the brain over and you can see the ventral view. You can identify the medulla, a part of the brain stem, in the top right of the picture. The midbrain, which is the portion between the pons and the diencephalon, and the optic chiasma, which is the crossing point of optic nerves in the center of the brain, and the olfactory bulge, which is a neural structure involved in the sense of smell in the anterior of the brain.
By cutting along the medial longitudinal fissure, we divided the two hemispheres to get a better view of the interior of the brain. In this slide, you can both view the left and the right hemispheres of the brain.
In these next slides, we can see the two lateral ventricles, one in each hemisphere of the brain.
There are two types of matter in the brain, white matter and gray matter. Here we point out the white matter, which is below and surrounded by the gray matter. And here we point out the gray matter, which makes up the cortex of the brain.
This is another view of the midbrain, other than the ventral view.
Here's a sagittal view of the left hemisphere, showing the hypothalamus, pons, medulla, and cerebellum, as well as where the spinal cord starts.
Here is the same sagittal view showing the same things as before, except now with the thalamus, which is above the hypothalamus.
In this last image, the brain is split along the medial longitudinal fissure, showing a sagittal view of both hemispheres of the sheep brain. The arbor vitae are the tree-like patterns inside the cerebellum, and the penile body in the endocrine gland, which secretes melatonin.
Thanks for watching. Have a good dissection.